We're going to speak to Osama Hamdan. He's a senior Hamas representative. He's joining us on the phone. Thank you for being with us. In order to be able to get people back to the negotiating table, the impression I get is that there are going to have to be many more guarantees given by both sides, but of course Hamas plays a key role in that. What guarantees would you be able to give to ensure that Israel would stop its current attacks?
Well, in fact, there is no need to talk about the guarantees from the Palestinian side, including Hamas, because we are the side who is being attacked every day, all the time. We are bombed by the Israelis. Our civilians are being killed. And the Israeli side who undermines all the efforts which was going through in the last few days. In fact, every day in the last 7 days of the temporary ceasefire, Israel was acting in a way to undermine the whole process. They attacked a few days ago. They keep the air jets in the air 2 days ago. And every day they are making more pressure on the Palestinian side. In the last night, yesterday, we were talking about the extending of the temporary ceasefire. We were very clear about some options which was suggested by the mediators. We accepted 3 suggestions, but all those 3 suggestions were rejected by the Israelis. So what can you ask about more than this? We were and we are still positive towards all the efforts, but the Israelis who undermined all this, and I think they rely on the support of the United States, especially after the visit of Blinken to the region.
I understand that Qatar and Egypt, as well as the US, but particularly Qatar and Egypt, are working hard to try to restart some sort of negotiating process. Have you been in contact with Qatar and Egypt with regard to that negotiating process?
Yes, we are still connected, and we heard from both Qatar and Egypt that they will continue their efforts. We supported that, and we've told them both that we are ready to be more positive. But we have to be sure that the will of the United States is really to make an end for the Israeli attack against the Palestinians and against Gaza, because everyone knows that the things were going with some obstacles, but when Blinken had his last visit to the region with his statements, it was clear that the situation will be changed, and that happened directly the next day.
Can I just be clear on what you're saying, that you're acknowledging the efforts being made by Qatar and Egypt, but if I understand it correctly, you think it's the US which really holds the key to getting a ceasefire back on track?
Yes, we believe that the United States is undermining the process also, and they are trying to get more benefit from this temporary ceasefire and from the efforts from the Egyptian and the Qatari side. I think they are the most important key side who can make an end for the Israeli attack against Gaza. They can at least tell the Israelis enough is enough. If you continue like this, we will not send weapons to you. We will not protect you in the Security Council. But they are still protecting them in the Security Council. They are still giving them the green light to continue their attacks against Gaza by saying they have the right to defend themselves. And everyone knows, according to the international law, the occupier has no right to talk about self-defense because he is the occupier. He is the attacker. This is the international law, if the United States respects the international law.
Israel has constantly said that Hamas uses Palestinians as human shields. Given the level of intensity that we're seeing from the bombardments from Israeli military at the moment, what can Hamas do to try to protect Palestinians in Gaza?
Well, as everyone knows, the Israelis built all what they are doing on lies. they have lied. They have said that the hospitals are the centers for the militants of Hamas, and it's the control center for the militants. They took over all the hospitals. They destroyed the Shifa hospital, and they found nothing. They destroyed an Indonesia hospital, and they found nothing. In fact, they knew that there is nothing, but they were lying in order to create a case which can convince the international community that they have the right to do this. Now everyone knows that they are lying. They are still talking about Hamas using the civilians as shields. What about the Israelis who are attacking the civilians on purpose? No one is talking about that. No one is talking about bombing buildings with civilians. No one is talking about bombing the schools which raise the flag of the UN, where there is no militants there, not according to Hamas, but according to the international to the United Nations. So I want to say that the Israelis are lying. They are talking about that. Everyone knows that they have no evidence because this is not a fact. It's only a lie. The one who is using the civilians to make pressure on Hamas and on the Palestinian leadership is the Israelis by killing more and more civilians, including women and children.
We are now several weeks past the attack of October the 7th. Looking back at what has happened over the following weeks after that attack, is Hamas still convinced that it did the right thing on October the 7th?
Well, the question is supposed to be, is the Israelis are still convinced that they have to continue as an occupiers for the Palestinians? Is the international community still convinced that he is supposed to protect Israel as an occupier? Is the United States still supporting the occupation for Palestine, killing the will of the Palestinians to have their own independent sovereign state with Jerusalem as a capital? The Palestinians are defending themselves. They can't do nothing more than defending themselves. When they are attacked, when they are being killed, when they are under the siege, when there are thousands of their children, women in the Israeli jails, what they are supposed to do? They have either to defend themselves or to accept that and die in silence. We will not die in silence. We will resist the occupation. We will do our best to defend our national goals, to liberate our nation. And the question is supposed to be, what about making an end for the occupation? What about the liberation of the Palestinians from this occupation?
The holding of captives had given Hamas leverage in this conflict. We have released many of those captives. How much leverage does Hamas still have in this conflict?
Well, I believe we are not talking about the situation as a leverage. We are talking about the situation as a try from the Palestinian side, including Hamas, to survive facing this occupation, who is threatening the Palestinians with a nuclear bomb, as it was said by one of the ministers in the cabinet. This is the threat which we are facing. And I assure you, the bombardment in the last 50 days is twice double the Hiroshima nuclear bomb. This is what we are facing, and this is what we are trying to protect our people from. So we have said from day number one, the 8th of October, that those captives, they are not prisoners, they are not war prisoners like the soldiers. We are ready to send them back. They are not in the hands of Hamas, but we are ready to bring them from everywhere and to send them to their families. The one who said no was Netanyahu. He expects that he can create a story about that. Everyone knows, was watching the people who were released, how they were feeling comfortable, how they were talking about the treatment of Hamas, while and on the other side, the prisoners of Hamas in the Israeli jails are being treated badly. 6 of them were killed in the last 60 days, and all those prisoners are under a very hard situation. This is what we are talking about. Hamas is not trying to have leverage. Hamas is trying to protect the Palestinians on their way to have their liberation, and they're building their own independent state.
Osama Hamdan is a senior Hamas spokesman. Thank you very much indeed.